In 2007, the ACT government endorsed the Murrumbidgee to Googong Water Transfer Project. One of the key things for ACTEW to consider in delivering the project was how we're going to protect the natural environment that the pipeline runs through, and one of the species they were most concerned about in the beginning was the Swainsona recta, or Small Purple Pea, which is small purple flower that's endemic to this area.
The Swainsona recta that we're planting out at Williamsdale as part of the project with the Australian National Botanic Gardens and ACTEW was collected from two separate populations, one on Mount Taylor in the ACT and one at near Williamsdale in New South Wales.
The small purple pea is a nationally endangered species, and while ACTEW was eventually able to place the pipe so that they didn't disturb any of the plants found on the pipeline route, they were keen to do something more to protect the plant, to make sure that it would survive into the future. So in 2010 they approached the Australian National Botanic Gardens to enter into a partnership to propagate the small purple pea.
Part of the partnership beyond ACTEW and the ANBG extended to New South Wales Threatened Species Unit, as well as ecologists from the ACT government. So we're here today at the Australian National Botanic Gardens nursery, where we've actually grown the Swainsona recta plants on for our planting. This facility has been set up in a way so that the plants grown here are grown under very hygienic conditions and a very specific regime to reduce any risk of pathogens or unwanted material going back to the original site. So here we are at the Australian National Botanic Gardens seed bank, and we're about to have a look at Swainsona recta and how we store the seeds here in the seed bank. So I'll just open the freezer here, and you'll notice that we store the seeds here at well below zero, and that enables these seeds to be stored for long periods. So for example, this particular number here will give information about who collected the seed, where it was collected from, what the surrounding vegetation was like, and the conditions and aspect of the site where the seeds were collected. So this can always be valuable information for future work, and for reintroductions into the wild. That information is critical to ensure that the plants go back into similar conditions, or if they're going back into different conditions, as a variable to test the plant's durability outside its normal range. So the facilities here at the Australian National Botanic Gardens Seed Bank enable us to do a whole range of tests on seed that we bank here at the gardens. For the Swainsona recta, we've done a number of variations, if you like, to how we do the germination of the seed, including scarification, which is essentially a roughening up of the seed coat. We've also done boiling water treatment, and we've compared the results and documented that. And again, this is critical to determine the particular techniques that are most successful for threatened species such as these.
Anything small?
It's an elusive species. It's actually not that difficult to germinate, and the plants can persist, or they have known to persist in wild populations for many years, to be old plants that persist for a long time. There's an interesting characteristic for this particular species, and that is that some years it doesn't appear at all above the ground. And originally it was thought that the plants were disappearing, but there's now much more thought along the lines that the reserves that are held underground in a poor season may not produce much foliage or flower above the ground. So there might only be a few leaves or no leaves, and often no flowering, which means that they, they're sort of almost ephemeral, if you like, in terms of their above ground activity. So you might go to an area where there was perhaps a couple of hundred one year, and you might only see 4 or 5 or 6 another year, which is quite astonishing. And worrying when you first see that, of course, but you know, that's the particular characteristic for this species. We're here at the Australian National Botanic Gardens in the grassy woodland section, and you can see we're not far from the visitor centre. It's a main part of the Botanic Gardens that has a high visitation rate. But critically, I guess this is the garden that's the shop front for species such as Swainsona erecta. The great thing about having a garden like this is that we can actually tell the story of what's happening out in the field for projects such as the collaborative partnership on Swainsona erecta, and people can actually come to the gardens here and look at the plants in the ground. So really, this, as I say, this is the shop front for the conservation work that's happening outside the gardens and with other partners.
The enthusiasm of people like David Taylor and other staff at the National Botanic Gardens has led to the success of this project.